Hi, welcome to the Take 5 podcast, the show that helps strengthen firefighters in protecting those relationships that matter most. I'm your host, Lee Sullivan, licensed mental health counselor and certified emotionally focused therapist. I'm so glad you're here today. Welcome back. All too frequently, we experience someone else as doing something or saying something that we find triggering, and we have a big emotional reaction with blame or anger. In our reactive state, we often miss altogether the important component that's necessary for changing our response. So we end up actually negotiating with the other person, usually about their behavior and our expectations. We might try to find a middle ground between those two in order to reduce conflict. Today we're going to slow this immediate and very reactionary, fast process down so that you can better understand what's actually happening for you so that you can change your responses. So recently a friend was telling me how he absolutely hates being late. Being early is on time and being on time is late for him. I'm sure you in fire service can absolutely agree and understand this. He was sharing how he likes to be a few minutes early and how his family seems to drag their feet and everybody seems slow to him. And they often end up arguing about this person getting up earlier, this person doing their hair faster, not spending so much time in the bathroom. This other person, could you start the night before to prepare for this thing we have in the morning? And then they also ask Dad to reduce his expectations of everyone, and the family discussions end up revolving around this negotiation with everyone till they can find some middle ground that everyone can live with. As he was talking about his reactions of blame, and he was describing it, and anger toward his family, I was able to ask him, what message or messages does he take in about himself when they are running late? What message does he hear about himself when he walks in a room, either on time or late? And he had the self-awareness that he was able to say, I don't feel like I have it all together. I believe I'm unprepared. And I think people are going to think that about me, that I'm unprepared. And I feel insufficient somehow when I walk in late. Through taking it really slow, he was able to identify these internal messages that he takes in. They were hidden behind his blame and his anger. Because you see, his blame was his way of saying, I'm not the one unprepared. I'm not insufficient. I am prepared. I am sufficient. I want to ask you today, what messages drive you or are a motivating force behind your hair trigger response of blame? What messages land on you just in the moments before you start to blame other people? You see, the behaviors of others is neutral and without prejudice, because in my friend's example, the kids could have the same exact behaviors of having a slow morning and they're dragging their feet in the mornings. Absolutely can be the same, but a different dad with a different life experience with different internal messages is going to have a different response to them. The problem is that this dad hears the internal message that he's insufficient, somehow not good enough. And so he wants to defend and correct that message. He does this by blaming and showing anger to the people who are doing the behavior that cause him to feel insufficient. Let me say that again. When this man feels insufficient, he wants to defend and correct that message. And so he ends up blaming the people, the trigger, who are causing him to feel insufficient. You and I do the same thing. The family in this example, the family is the mirror that's holding up a reflection that indicates that he feels insufficient. And that is an awful internal message. He doesn't want to feel that. And so he ends up reacting through blame and anger. So I ask you again, when you use blame in your life, what message are you hearing about yourself? What do you tell yourself in the moments right before you blame others? Identifying that internal message that drives your blame can help you to really slow yourself down, feel more emotionally regulated, so that you can express your needs with distilled clarity. If you learned something useful in today's podcast, please like us and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. If you have ideas for new content material, please write that in the notes. I really enjoy hearing from you directly, and I'm happy to do the research so that these podcasts are specific and relatable for you. Join me again next week as we continue to practice secure attachments, emotional awareness, all of that which produces resilience. For a list of references used in today's episode, please visit our website at take5withlee.com. You'll also find more resources for first responders that have been vetted for cultural competence. Remember, what we see, we can change one feeling, one message, one conversation at a time. Thank you for joining me as we learn to tap into our emotion signals, which will ultimately build resilience, protecting and preserving those relationships that matter most. Be safe out there and be well.